Welcome to Market Mind Lab, a multi-billion-dollar retail empire built entirely on a paradox. You're actually paying a $60 fee just for the privilege of spending your own money inside their stores. It makes no logical sense, right? Today, in this explainer, we're diving deep into the cognitive biases and hidden psychological levers that make this bizarre business model absolutely thrive. Let's get right into it. You know the exact scenario. You walk through those giant automatic doors, the floors are bare concrete, goods are stacked literally to the ceiling on industrial pallet racks. The lighting, strictly utilitarian. You came in with one totally modest goal. You literally just needed a gallon of milk. But somehow, 2 hours later, you're walking out with a 72-pack of toilet paper and, a kayak. It's a perfect illustration of how millions of us willingly participate in what is essentially a retail cult. We are perfectly happy to be manipulated, but what's actually happening inside our minds when we do this? And what were the architects of this system thinking when they built it?
Section 1. The $60 Mystery.
Think about the sheer scale of this operation. Over 55 million members globally, a jaw-dropping 90% annual renewal rate. But here is the massive contradiction at the heart of it all. This warehouse doesn't actually make most of its money from selling you groceries. The profit margins on the actual products are incredibly thin. If we look at fiscal 2025, over $5 billion in revenue came strictly from those entry fees. That means membership fees account for a massive 92% of their net income. So it's not really a store with a membership. It's a membership club that just happens to have a store attached.
Section 2. The sunk cost trap. So who actually made the decision to build a business this way? Well, it goes back to 1976. A Bronx-born attorney named Saul Price opened the very first Price Club inside an old, converted airplane hangar. He stumbled onto a totally brilliant strategic insight. A business could actually survive on tiny, razor-thin margins as long as that membership fee kept flowing in. This was a secret weapon that Jim Sinegal deeply understood after working with Price. So when Sinegal and Jeff Brotman launched the first Costco in Seattle in 1983, they bet the entire foundation of their company on this one specific insight.
The engine that makes this entire system run is a cognitive bias we call the sunk cost effect. Think about it. Once you hand over that $60, a psychological switch flips in your brain. That money is gone. It's non-refundable. And human beings have a deep subconscious aversion to waste. So that fee essentially becomes a commitment device. It forces your future self to shop there as much as humanly possible just to justify the cost. You aren't even shopping for things you need anymore. You're shopping to defend your initial investment.
Section 3. Hacking the human brain.
The behavioral manipulation actually starts the literal second you grab a shopping cart. Seriously, have you ever noticed how absolutely massive they are? Between 2009 and 2011, grocery carts across many retail stores doubled in size. And no, that wasn't to fit larger items, it was to hack your brain. Seeing an empty cart triggers this weird psychological urge to fill the void. When the cart is twice as big, people instinctively buy 40% more stuff. You're not buying what you need for today, you're buying because the cavernous cart makes you feel like you haven't bought enough yet.
As you move deeper into the store, the leadership uses something called curation to completely destroy your decision fatigue. Just look at the contrast here. Your typical Walmart supercenter is packed with nearly 150,000 unique items. Costco? Fewer than 4,000. By slashing their inventory down to just a tiny fraction of the competition, they entirely eradicate analysis paralysis. Instead of standing there staring at 20 different bottles of ketchup, completely overwhelmed by cognitive overload, you get one option. The implicit, authoritative message is, hey, we already found the winner. Stop overthinking it. It's fascinating, but when our choices are severely limited, we actually feel much more certain about what we're buying. We stop comparison shopping, we drop our critical analysis, and we just grab what's right in front of us.
But wait, what if your favorite item isn't there next time? Well, that's by design too. They intentionally rotate inventory in a strategy known as the treasure hunt. That premium cashmere sweater you see on Tuesday, it might be gone forever by Saturday. This introduces psychological scarcity. When we see something unexpected, it triggers an emotional impulse buy. You're not buying it because you necessarily need it, you're buying it because your brain is trying to avoid the pain of missing out on a great deal.
Okay, let's head to the center aisles. This is where you run into the famous free sample stations. Now listen, these are not just friendly snacks. They are highly calculated psychological traps built around the concept of reciprocity. It's human nature. When someone gives you a gift, even just a tiny square of cheese on a toothpick, you feel a subconscious duty to return the favor. It softens your defenses and makes you view the entire store way more favorably.
And the data totally backs this up. This subtle manipulation is incredibly effective. For every 4 free samples handed out at those little stations, that lingering feeling of reciprocity guarantees 1 resulting sale. It is a brilliant, highly efficient conversion machine driven entirely by human emotion and our innate sense of social obligation.
Section 4. The illusion of value. Even if you somehow manage to resist the free cheese, you cannot resist their ultimate pricing traps. Case in point, the food court. The famous hot dog combo price has been locked at $1.50 for decades. Despite massive inflation, despite skyrocketing supply costs, leadership absolutely refuses to raise that price. Why? Because it serves as a public oath of loyalty to you, the member. It's a beacon of total consistency.
It's the exact same story with the rotisserie chicken. They intentionally lose money on every single chicken they sell at $4.99. If you look at this purely from a margins perspective, it makes 0 sense. But from a behavioral psychology perspective, it's an absolute masterstroke.
These items act as loss leaders. They're symbolic bargains that completely anchor your expectations. By taking a financial hit on the chicken and the hot dog, they successfully hack your perception of the entire warehouse. Your brain unconsciously does the math. Well, if the hot dog is still $1.50, then literally every other price in this massive store must be equally fair and unbeatable.
That cultivated trust is exactly what allows their private label, Kirkland's Signature, to act as a massive trust moat. Kirkland accounts for a staggering 30% of all sales. By slapping that one name on everything from baby diapers to premium vodka, they create what's called salience bias. In your mind, the Kirkland label becomes an absolute guarantee of quality. Because of that, you stop researching brands altogether and just completely outsource your judgment to the store. The final hook in this whole ecosystem is the executive tier membership. These premium members make up only a fraction of the user base, yet they drive over 70% of all sales. Why is that? Because getting 2% cash back completely rewires how you think about spending. Once your brain shifts to optimizing for rewards, you start asking if you should be spending money in the first place. Buying more suddenly feels like a smart, responsible financial move.
Section 5. Selling an identity. So what can modern leaders take away from all this? The ultimate success of this operation isn't really about selling mayonnaise in bulk. Even the physical building reinforces this. The stark austerity of the concrete floors, the exposed industrial racks, the harsh fluorescent lighting, it's the final psychological trick. We can call it the architecture of honesty. It's a visual cue subtly whispering to your brain that because there is absolutely nothing fancy happening here, the savings have to be real. The total lack of aesthetics is the aesthetic.
The entire warehouse experience, from the massive carts to the limited choices to the loss leaders, is meticulously engineered to validate your intelligence. It transforms basic, everyday consumerism into this emotional victory. It becomes a ritual that makes you feel like you are actually winning in an otherwise rigged modern economy.
When modern leaders look at this $50 billion psychological empire, we really have to recognize just how profoundly cognitive biases shape our markets and our choices. So I'll leave you with this final question to ponder. The next time you walk through those giant doors, do you really go just to save money, or do you go to reassure yourself that you're a smart shopper? Thanks for joining this explainer on Market Mind Lab.